Wired Axcess.
We'll do it live.
Wired Axcess.
Do it live.
Wired Axcess.
We'll do it live.
Wired Axcess.
All right, welcome to Wired Axcess Podcast. I'm your host, DJ K-Dub Omaha, and we are in a whole new setting because we are welcoming someone that's on the road along with his fellow teammate going through the Yankees organization in the MLB. We have Jared Wegner on the podcast there. Thank you for joining us. And then right next to us, we have Matt Keating. Both are Nebraska kids. They're former NEB preps, as I like to throw it out there, because what I love about our show is we like to try to share stories of people that are going through the journey that many people go, I want to be a athlete in the MLB. I want to be an NFL superstar. But sometimes they don't understand the grind, the dedication, the overcomings that these guys have to go through. So what I want to get is a little bit of backtrack, because both of your stories are very interesting. They're not the same, but they are going through a lot of the same process now after the road before. Brian Southworth is back with us. You know, the wonderful co-host. He comes in when he feels. No, I'm joking. I'm glad that you're able to make it. I can't do this without you. Once again, fellas, thanks for joining us today. Let's start, back in the little old baseball little league, or what grew on you when it came to sports? Were you a multi-sport athlete? Matt, we'll start with you. What do you remember back when you were little, growing up, playing sports, and what kept you on wanting to play sports?
Well, I guess I've always been a baseball guy. It's always been my favorite sport, but I was a multi-sport athlete. I played football growing up, basketball. I wasn't very good at basketball, but I actually thought when I was in grade school that football might be my route, though. I was a lot better at football than I was baseball back in that day. And then I stopped growing for a little bit. I got small, and I was getting, by the time I got to high school, I was getting shoved all around. So ended up stopped playing football after my junior year and just started focusing on baseball.
Well, and then, of course, we have Mr. Carney himself. You grew up in a smaller town than Matt here, who went to Creighton here in town. What was it like in Carney? What do you remember about growing up and when you played sports?
Yeah, so growing up in Kearney, pretty much everyone plays sports, and that's kind of how, you make those friends. For me, I played football, basketball, and baseball. Kind of knew at an early age that I really loved baseball. Kind of started actually in Little League when we were the first Nebraska team to make it to Williamsport, Pennsylvania for the Little League World Series, which was a really cool opportunity for me, but it kind of opened my eyes to okay, this is pretty cool playing in front of all these fans. I want to do that again. So that was always in the back of my head. When I was going through the workouts throughout high school and stuff like that, was just, that's somewhere I want to go. I want to get drafted. I want to go play, at a Division I, and you just keep that in mind. So
well, and you brought up a big point that not many can speak on, the Little League College World Series. Brian, you obviously have a team up and coming. For myself, my son's already through the high school realms and all that, but never once was that like a big conversation between coaches and parents that I felt that I went through. What is it like, or is that something that you guys have as a goal to follow in the footsteps of like a Kearney, or how do you even go about that?
Man, it's tough because Nebraska doesn't have a whole bunch of Little League. Nebraska's really in the select baseball. So the great thing about Kearney is they do a program where you can play your club ball on the weekends, but you can also participate in Little League. And man, I sure wish Nebraska had a system like that. I'd love to see some more community baseball opportunities, whether you're playing, kids from your school or other opportunities, but also still have the opportunity to go play against good competition too. But they do that. I mean, my kid watched every Little League World Series game this year, and now he's already plotting. He's like, okay, where do I need to go play to do this? How do I do this? Because it looks like an unreal experience. It looks like a blast. So,
and Jared, can you speak upon that? I mean, obviously, we do have a couple programs. I know the Storm Chasers out of Papillion were doing the Cooperstown, where they
Yeah.
get an invite. And that's very important, because once you get that invite, you don't want to lose it, and you got to keep teams going. So that's kind of hard. But what was it like for the college or the Little League World Series? Sorry about that. Of just even going through that process, because it's not local and the crowds are huge.
Yeah. So it was definitely an experience. We're all 12 years old, never played in front of much of a crowd except of our parents and, family. So going into an experience like that with a bunch of guys from Kearney, Nebraska, and we're playing guys from, we ended up playing Europe. We ended up playing Uganda just in a friendship game. Like, those are just such cool memories for me to look back on and just, be very appreciative of it. So it was it was a real cool thing too, being like in a small community, and that community just kind of like welcomes you. When we came back, everyone was so excited. And, as a 12-year-old, you're like, wow, I'm really, really cool.
Yeah. Well, Matt, of course, you played locally in some of the select baseball. What was some of the biggest things that you felt that taught you to help you when you got to high school and stuff like that?
One really big lesson that I learned, I was playing it's called Taggy Rutherford. I don't know if it's still a team, but they were up there with pace setters and frozen ropes. I think it's Omaha Tigers now.
Yeah.
And this was my first year on the team. I was just leaving the Omaha Hawks. I was playing a year up. So I actually got to play Jared when he was on that team.
Who won?
Me. They whooped you guys.
Right. Did you pitch or no?
I think
Oh,
I
was
didn't
gonna
really
say.
pitch until my senior year of high school. But anyway, so back to Taggy. I was pretty good on this Omaha Hawks team, and I was like, okay, I need to go play at a higher competition level. Major, if that actually means anything. I don't know.
It does. I mean, the more want is something that you can't give. If
Right.
you have the more want to play at a higher and harder level, I mean, that speaks for itself.
Right. So anyway, I went from being, one of the best players on the team to I went to Taggy, and there was some really good, talent on that team. And I simply wasn't that good, compared to these kids. And that was a really hard pill for me to swallow. And, I went to my dad. I was, breaking down. I was like, I just want to quit. I want to go back and play for the Hawks again, and had he let me do that, what would that have taught me in the long run? Anytime something gets hard, you're just going to quit. No. So we ended up signing me up for some lessons. I went and hit in this, his name's Ron. He was about 75 years old, didn't see very well, but he had this hitting cage in his basement. And I went there every day before practice or games, and I would take about 100 swings.
Now,
And-
this is with your team or by yourself?
No, this is by myself. I would have my brother drive me there
Take
because
that
I
note,
wasn't
kids.
old enough to drive yet. And he would feed the machine, and Ron he had a picture of Barry Bonds on the wall, just like this. And he's like, all right, I just want you to look like that in your stance. I was like, you want me to look like Barry Bonds? It's like you and everyone else,
Yeah.
But I ended up, getting a lot better, and I started hitting, in the middle of the order by the end of the season. And I was a catcher at that time. I actually ended up having to play left field. I had never played outfield before, but I had to change my position if I wanted to get on the field. So that was a really good, lesson for me to learn at a young age. And it kind of taught me how to deal with some adversity. And, I ended up using that same lesson quite a few times, and I'm still going to have to use it in the future.
Man, that story just grabs you. And when you said knowing that you had to change positions, going through that process as a young kid, was it someone that helped you go through that? Was it dad? Was it a coach that kind of helped you understand if you want to play, you can't just do what you want to do. You got to do what the team needs.
Yeah. I mean, so one of the coach's kids was a catcher, and he was a better catcher than me. Plain, I'm not going to beat around the bush there. And they ended up putting me in left field for a game, and, I made a couple errors. I was like 12. But my dad's like, dude, they're giving you an opportunity. Like, they're going to give you another one. You're going to have to do good. So I was like, all right, how do I play better left field? We ended up after work every day. My dad would go out in the backyard, and he would literally throw pop flies to me as high as he could. And I would work on my, routes and catching the ball with 2 hands. Not sure if they teach that anymore.
Let's say that again. 2 hands.
Yep. And I ended up learning how to play it a little bit better. And I think that the coach really appreciated that, and he rewarded me with some playing time. It's not, you don't just get playing time. You have to earn it.
Yeah, and I think just every kid pictures that differently, and they see it differently, whether it's from the coach, from parents, because not all parents can have been through that struggle before on a team, or they do see their kid, like you said, where you're the top kid. Obviously, coming out of Kearney, everybody plays, and I don't mean it in a bad way, but you need everybody in that small town to want to play so you can have a team. Was there any adversity that you remember earlier going on that you might have had to make some adjustments to get back on the field?
Yeah, so I would say my sophomore year, basically our entire infield was going to play college baseball somewhere, and I was put on varsity on our Legion team because at the time we didn't have high school baseball. I never got to experience high school baseball, but at that time the infield was full. I moved to the outfield, and I've never looked back. I never moved back in the infield. I just ran with it and then loved it out there. A lot less pressure. I was like, I could get used to this, So that was something that kind of shaped my path, I'd say. And if maybe shortstop was open, who knows? Maybe I would have stuck it out in the infield. But I liked the outfield a lot and just ran with it.
Well, and I like that you brought up no high school baseball, because there's a lot of things in Kearney that everybody takes for granted here in Omaha or in the bigger cities, Lincoln and all that. Not only did you not have high school baseball, but we talked to Coach Day on a previous episode, just talking about Kearney losing its college baseball team. How does your parents and how does that community feel about that? Because to me, it would be like, just like when Rosenblatt was taken away. Like, I felt like a piece of me was gone, and I'm like, is my love for college baseball going to be the same? What was that like in Kearney? Because that didn't happen not too long ago.
No, it happened when I was in high school. I'm really good friends with Damon Day, family friends with him. So I've known him for a long time. And, it hurt, especially, when that whole thing was going down. I know I had a couple of teammates that were playing at UNK that I played with in high school. And, as a community, it didn't really make sense to everyone. There was a lot of frustration in the town. And, I still wish that there was baseball being played in the spring at Memorial Stadium. So, it hurts as a community, because a lot of people went out all the time and supported UNK athletics. So, and Damon Day is such a good guy. I feel for him, and he's obviously made some changes, and I'm happy for him and his family. So,
yeah, they're gonna enjoy him over at Scott Catholic. Now, Matt, I'm going to bring it back to you. You went to Creighton, and what some people might understand, some people don't. The kids that are there they have to pay to get in, or they have to have a scholarship to get in. So you're playing with kids that want to be there compared to some that are forced to be there. And some are, don't get me wrong, some parents force you to be there. Was there any situations that you felt where you could tell the difference between the kids that were there because parents forced them to be there on your team, or the ones that wanted to be a part of Creighton Prep baseball?
That's a good question. I could definitely tell in my classes, there were some kids that just definitely didn't want to be at prep. It just wasn't for them. As far as baseball goes, I feel like most of the kids genuinely wanted to be there. I know there was a couple that maybe wanted to transfer because they had some grade school buddies at a different school and whatnot, but they did a really good job of bringing us together, and we made friends really quick. So I think they kind of left that thought in the past.
All right, Jared, we'll ask you if there was a sport in high school that you could have played over baseball, and not because you loved it more. What would that sport be, and what would the position be?
Oh, I don't know. So I quit football after a couple of injuries. I enjoyed football. I think if I would have played maybe as a wide receiver and not a fullback linebacker, I would have enjoyed it a little bit more. But I would probably say football. I was decent at basketball, but couldn't really shoot very well and didn't play defense like I should have. So I'd have to
Brought
say
up
so
something good,
football.
though. You talked about injury, and that's a great question because kids do stop playing those extra sports because that injury could take them out of the sport that they love. What was that like going through? What kind of injuries did you go through?
So my freshman year of football, I had a high ankle sprain, was out for 8 or 9 weeks, I believe. And then my sophomore year, I dove for a pylon, same ankle, and actually broke a non-weight bearing bone in it. And at that time I was like, I love football's fun, but I really love baseball and I'd like to play fall baseball my junior year. And so at that point I talked it over with my family, and, they were cool with me doing that and, getting away from football, hanging it up. So I think at the end of the day, you want to play multiple sports, see what you like, but maybe if you're better at one and you really enjoy it, at some point you kind of got to run with it.
That's a tough decision in Kearney too. I mean, there's just a little bit more pressure when you're in a smaller town. Like, hey, you're one of our best athletes. We need you on this football team. Like, did you have any of that pressure to like keep playing for the community, or did that decision go okay?
Yeah, no, you hit it. You hit it about perfect right there. There were some tough conversations I've had to have with, the football staff, coaching staff, and there was just a lot of pressure I felt from, because I grew up playing all these sports with all of my friends, and those friends don't really change in Kearney. You're not switching schools, whatever, so you've been riding with these guys for a long time. And then, you finally go, well, I've had enough. I'd like to focus on baseball. And they're all like, what do you mean? So there's definitely pressure. I think, you don't want to you never want to let people down, but I think at the end of the day, sometimes you got to, make a decision that might be in your best interest.
Well, and who helped you go through that process of that decision? Who was the one that kind of said, all right, if you want to make it to the next level on baseball, this is probably what you're going to have to do? Or was that a self decision?
Yeah. So I would say that my father has had a huge influence in kind of my decision making throughout my entire baseball career. And, we talked it over, and he was like, I think, if you're serious about baseball, I don't want you to, bang yourself up every fall and have a chance for injury. And it gave me an opportunity to kind of play fall baseball and keep training. So, at the end of the day, we decided it was a great move. So,
Matt, do you remember that decision of when you went and said, this is where I'm going to go all out, and who you walked through that decision with?
Well, my parents helped me a lot with that, but it was right after my sophomore year football season. I was, pretty undersized, and I was like, dude, if I want to make the baseball team here, I'm going to have to really get into shape. So after that, I just kind of had to put my head down and start, getting after it a little bit. My older brother went through Creighton Prep as well, and he had a back injury his junior year. And then he came back his senior year. He got cut from the baseball team. So, growing up, he was always, I thought, more athletic than me. And I thought, if I don't get this together, I'm literally going to get cut. So
it's a tough decision. So when you think of going through this decision and you're trying to find help, how is that road to finding extra workouts, extra stuff? Because I think sometimes people think, oh, okay, you just go right after school, but there's stuff in the morning that you do. Sometimes there's stuff after the first practice that you do. What was that like going through that process when you finally decided to make that trigger?
That's a good question too. I had the JCC growing up, so I would go right after school. I would go lift. For a while, I didn't have a real good plan when I first started, but it's okay. You just got to start. That's the main thing. So
It's the start that stops most people.
Yeah,
exactly.
because it gets hard. It gets mentally hard.
Yeah.
And I think unless you've been in it, I'm not one of those guys that every time I talk to someone, I go, oh, I know what you're talking about, man. Because there's no one that knows that mental decision to go, I want to be at this level, and I'm not even close.
Right. And, looking back on it now, kind of where me and Jared are at, it's like I couldn't have seen that I was just trying to make JV the next year. So basically I just, I started going to the gym, and I signed up for as many classes as I could over at the strike zone. That's where I grew up going. I don't know how much better I really got from it, but the point is that I was trying to do something to make myself better.
Dedication.
Yeah.
That's the number one word that you get out of that. Brian, you see athletes come in and out all the time. You're not there to tell them, oh, keep coming. What does it take to be athletes like these two that continue to have the want to go, and you're seeing it in your facility?
Yeah, I mean, it's a different mindset. I see Matt like at our facility all the time, and it's, more than anything, like besides being an athlete or, a competitor, like he's a learner, right? Like he's going in every day trying to learn something new and improve and create like a better baseball player through that. So, I mean, starting a new program this year, and, the first day on your program, how many hours at the facility were you there?
Oh boy. I mean, I think I was there from 9 to 6, went home, got some dinner, and then I was there from 7:30 to 1 in the morning.
So that's the difference between like an ordinary person and someone that plays at his level, right? To me,
yeah.
Like, Matt wasn't the best player. Like, I mean, he said it, and like a lot of people, like we think like, oh man, like, we start comparing ourselves to like the best players at certain age groups. And like, he self-admittedly, like he was not a good baseball player at points in his life.
Oh.
And, when he probably told his dad, like, hey, I want to be Major League Baseball player, like dad had to be thinking in the back of his head, like, oh man, like, does he know where he's at? But like, like
I have
also,
a story about that.
Like also like dad's like, okay, like, well, if you want to do it, like the conversations, the tidbits that he is like, dad's always like, you got to work harder. You got to do this. Like, this is the path to do it,? And so I think, having a mindset like that, and like having someone in your corner that like doesn't laugh at your goals, but tries to raise your goals.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really important.
And help you realize what it's going to take to get there. Jared, what do you remember when you made that first switch? What was some of the first training that you did extra beyond the high school and beyond the Legion ball?
Yeah. So kind of like you said, like you need somebody that's in your corner where you have these huge goals, and that person doesn't laugh at you, but that person, he says, all right, well, it's going to take a lot of work, and you're going to be grinding day in and day out and every day. And so for me, that was my father. I told him that. He actually went out and became like a certified hitting coach, which was absolutely huge for me. So he's kind of always been my hitting guy to go to, but the way I would say is like, okay, you're going to be around guys that are going to put in the work at practice, right? Like everyone's going to be at practice. Everyone's going to be working there. It's the work you do that's outside of that. So it was a lot of hitting on my own, after practice, just working on drills, certain stuff like that. And then also getting in the weight room as much as possible. At one point in high school, I wouldn't suggest this for anyone, but I was lifting like 6 days a week. I take Sundays off, and I was just grinding because I knew if I got stronger, I could become a better player. So to me, that was maybe a little bit extreme. Could have done some more mobility maybe, but it worked out all right.
Yeah, probably, right? Like,
but here's the thing, like, you don't consider it sacrificing, but I always like to make sure that it's well clear. What's something that you felt you sacrificed and you missed in high school that obviously you can't go back, but that you want to help someone else know that it's okay to make sure you still attend that event, or you still do that, give up that little time so you don't miss out on the moment?
Yeah. So, I mean, you're still going to be in high school, and, high school is a really cool time. You learn a lot. You're going to spend a lot of time with your buddies, but at the same time, what do you want to do in the future? So what's going to change your life? What's going to get you that scholarship or that life that you want to live? And for me, there was times where I didn't hang out with friends, maybe because I wanted to work out and they want to do something else, or, I tried to find that balance. And I think in high school, I may have overdone it, where there was times where I'd be like, no, I want to go work out and do this. And that was just kind of my mindset, in high school. And so I'd say maybe I sacrificed some time with friends. You always got to, with my family, it was always, you got to spend time with them. But And then you also got to look at like who are you hanging out with, because you get rolling with the wrong crowd, and the peer pressure is gonna get to you. So you got to surround yourself with really really quality people, and maybe people that have the same desire and goals that you have.
Well, and I'm glad that you brought up the crowd, Matt. What do you remember about the crowd that you try to hang around with, and how were you able to filter? But also maybe you might have also didn't filter somewhere. You didn't want to give up that friendship, knowing it still might have held you just a little bit.
Right. I had, one or two really good friends in high school, and, we never went out, never partied. Literally, I would go, Friday nights, I would get home. I would drive over to my friend's house. I would pick him up. We would go to Sonic on 144th in Maple, and we'd get 2 large ice waters, and then we drove out to a historical landmark out in Valley.
Okay.
And there was a sign there. We would take a piss right next to the sign. And then we would drive back home.
You notice he's not helping him with any baseball.
No. I mean,
but
that
hopefully
was
it cleared your mind
Yeah,
along with your bladder, right?
Yeah. And then, we would go fishing. And then I'd take him home. That was my Friday night. And to this date, my parents still don't believe that that's what we would do. And I keep telling them.
That might be one of the most interesting stories we've had on Wired Access.
I would have to say so, where, you're thinking he's going out. They got a case of beer that his buddy brought in the back of the truck. No, they just got 2 ice waters. They didn't even want to pay for any. Yeah. I mean, Sonic's got so many drinks and so many options.
You got to pay for the water.
Their water,
like 89 cents, I think, is what it is.
It's unbelievable.
Got inflation.
It's all about the ice. I get it.
It's good ice.
All right. So, let's start out with you, Jared. When you left Kearney High School, was there anything that you felt you left at that school and you helped lead them to a better future?
Yeah, I would say some of the younger guys that I got a chance to be around in the baseball world. I left the imprint of, you can achieve what you want, and at the end of the day, you're going to put in all this work, and there's no X and Y of, if I put in this amount of work, this is what's going to happen. And for me, I just would say that the people around me, the younger guys, they looked up to me and knew that if they put in work at some point in life, it's going to pay off, whether that's you going to college to get a degree, because not everyone's going to go play college baseball. But at the same time, baseball teaches you so many lessons, such as like discipline, hard work, dealing with failure and stuff like that. And I feel like I helped a lot of people kind of work through that and, made them a better person. At the end of the day, that's kind of something that's important to me.
Well, and what I like is it's sometimes when you are the older or the upperclassmen, as they call it at school, you never accept that what you do to the young underclassmen could change the trajectory of those kids, but also just the school in general. And Matt, is there anything, obviously you've already told us that a few times you felt like you weren't the guy, but when you left Creighton baseball and you left that high school, what was the thing that you felt you were able to leave a mark on?
Well, I played my freshman year. I played freshman baseball. Sophomore year, I was on JV2. Junior year, I was on JV1. So I didn't make varsity until the summer going into my senior year, and I was a bullpen catcher. And then the next year, I worked really hard in the off season and ended up playing pretty good the next year. And I think that left kids with optimism that, no matter where I'm at right now, there's still time that I can, make this change, and I can be one of the better players on the team.
Well, and I like that you said that, because everybody feels like if I'm a freshman and I'm not ready for varsity, I probably shouldn't even go. I probably shouldn't even do it. I know I'm varsity, but you accepted. You, as they say, you grew where you were planted on the team. You knew that was your part. Now, the routes that you guys went to get to the next level, as I like to call it, college, is different. You were at Creighton High School. This guy comes over to Creighton University from Kearney. You go the JUCO route. Now, what I really like about the JUCO route is this is a route that's starting to catch a lot of fire, because it's mentally, I think, putting yourself in reality to go, there's more steps. There's more things that I have to do. Not saying you couldn't have accepted a D2 or an NAIA or anything like that. You went the JUCO route. What was that process like? And what was even the recruiting like in your senior year that you remember? Because some people think that it's all these bells and whistles and all these people will come talking, but if you weren't where they wanted you, you had to do extra work to get there.
I was enrolled at the University of Nebraska June 30th, going into my freshman year of college. I didn't have any offers. So I was literally going to go be a business student and try and play club baseball at University of Nebraska. And I had a connection with, I had a good connection with my pitching coach at Creighton Prep, and he had a connection with Dion Parks down at Southeast, head coach. And he called him up and he said, this kid isn't ready to hang him up yet. Just give him a chance. And they came and watched the game and they're like, all right, yeah. I mean, if he wants to come here, he can come play. And I talked it over with my parents. I was like, I'm really not ready to give this up. So, I'd like to pursue this opportunity and I think it'll be worth it. And I've been so blessed. My parents have supported me through every step of the way with baseball, and they were accepting of that. And that's how it went for me.
Man, Brian, when we talk about, he just said a big statement, and obviously you went through it and you're going to have to go through it with your kids. He said the statement of he didn't want to give it up. When did you decide for yourself, and how do you look like you're going to be talking with your own kids, or how do you feel? Not saying it's going to happen because things will change because Gunner's still doing his thing, but there's a lot of pressure there.
There is. I mean, I went to college and I went the junior college route, and I was just not mentally tough to overcome the demand of junior college. I mean, there's no restrictions. I mean, at the school I went to, like we were lifting weights from like 5 to 5:30 to 7 every day. Go shower, then we got team breakfast at 8:30, then you got school. You better be out to the field by 1:30, and then we were going until 6:30. And the only reason we were done at 6:30 is because we didn't have lights and the cafeteria closed at 7, right? So like you had a half hour like to run from practice there. I guarantee if we had lights, we would have gone back after dinner.
Did you also go to Southeast?
No, but here's the thing. I went
that was my journey.
That's it though, right? And like
that's exactly it.
I loved the game of baseball. I guess I did not enjoy being a baseball player as much as I loved the game of baseball. Like, it was a great game. And, I dealt with some injuries. I had like an arm injury, and I'm looking at it as like, okay, I need surgery in my arm. Like, am I like mentally strong enough? And then like watching my team, we had a pretty good team. I'm so far behind these guys, and I know I'm not willing to put in the work. So it's like the writing was kind of on the wall for me. So it's tough, but everyone gets to a point where someone tells them they can't play baseball anymore. So that was it.
Well, and Jared, you're going from a smaller town, Kearney, coming all the way to Omaha. What was your process through through your recruiting, or was there a process to it?
Yeah, so kind of part of my journey, not having high school baseball, I got an opportunity through a friend to go play actually for a team in St. Louis my junior summer in high school, and that's actually where Creighton saw me. I don't think they had seen me before, just happened to see me in a tournament in Indianapolis. So I actually lived there for a summer, kind of sacrificed a summer of high school, and they were interested after that, and they gave me an offer that I couldn't resist, and then also having family close, going to in Omaha, so it just made sense. And at the time, I went for it. So,
well, and you brought up a good thing, talking about a showcase. Matt, did you have any showcases that you knew of coming up, and now you see it going on after the years that you guys have graduated? What do you think about all the showcases and the promotion for these young athletes?
I never did any showcases. My dad was always telling me, if you're good enough, they're going to find you. Now, being the case that I didn't have an offer until 3 weeks before I stepped foot on campus, I probably should have, maybe. And I think it's a bigger deal now than it was maybe when me and him were in high school, just because there's so much travel ball. It's probably good to go get exposed to some of the teams that come out for that.
Well, and what he brought up fall ball earlier. We've talked a little bit about fall ball. What's your thoughts on it? Is it more for those kids that need that extra rep and go there to get those reps, or is it for parents that aren't having the luck during spring to get that same baseball?
It could be a little bit of both. I'm a big fan of, most high school kids, I would say, not to generalize, but are a little underdeveloped. And I think that the best place for them to be during the fall is in the weight room. I think that's probably going to benefit them more than, pitching an extra 12 innings or getting an extra 100 at bats, whatever. Really putting on size. That's the number one thing that teams are going to notice is, this kid looks like he's ready to play college baseball. And if you're not, then they're not going to be talking to you.
Well, and Jared, of course, being in Kearney baseball, you're just trying to get the game going because you don't get to play as much as other high schools. What did fall ball do for you, and what do you kind of recommend now that it is kind of more of the limelight?
Yeah. So fall baseball is kind of an interesting thing, especially for high schoolers. I think as a parent, you got to look and say, where is my son at? And if I go to a showcase, what am I showcase? Like what's he showing? Because you can send him to a showcase, but he's not showing anything.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can pay, instead of paying for that, you can pay for lessons or a trainer, and you can take him to a showcase next year where, somebody at the showcase is going to be like, wow, who is that?
It's absolutely incredible how much people will spend to go play in a tournament in Florida, right? But not be willing to pay for those other things he mentioned, right? Like a trainer, a coach. It's so backwards sometimes. I mean, you can play a part in the fall ball, but I mean, it's got to be a part of the big picture. What else are we trying to accomplish here?
Yeah, and of course, for what you do, I mean, you dabbled a little bit in that fall ball. Did you see a benefit, or do you feel like sometimes, like he said, they got to either be in the gym or play a different sport just to get your mechanics, get your body under you? I mean, from the age of 12 to the age of 18, you're doing the most growth, where if you don't keep them feet up under you and understand how to use them, you're going to lose them. Like, no matter how quick you can be, if you can't turn those hips just right, what do you feel?
I think Jared hit it on the head. Like, I mean, everyone is in a unique position. Like, everyone's different, right? Like, can fall ball benefit some people? Absolutely. Like Jared, his junior year, like from Kearney, Nebraska, like not coming in, like going to play like travel baseball, either summer or fall, like that got him exposed. Like, he was the exact type of situation, a kid that probably should go play fall ball. Now, the kid that's undersized, like he's way behind his peers, going to play more baseball might not be the answer for him. Maybe he should spend, like Matt said, like more time in the gym, or figuring out like, okay, I'm here, I want to get here. How am I going to do that? And does fall baseball help or hinder that path to get there? And I think everyone has that has to have that discussion and figure out what's best for them.
And I think, I should mention, I think me and Jared was much better looking than me. I was 140 pounds going into my senior year. So
yeah,
in my case, I needed to be in the weight room. Now, Jared, smaller town, a lot of talent, Division I teams are already looking at him. I think that's good. He's projectable already. So get exposed when you're ready to be exposed. If that makes sense.
And I think it's so easy to feel like you are ready. Don't be afraid to reach out to some of those. That's why I love episodes like this, where you're telling the truth of, it's okay to not be ready. It's okay to not have to go D1 right away, but you got the opportunity at Southeast, and then you go to USC. Talk about that process from JUCO to get to that D1. And like you said before, you were almost on Nebraska's campus, but not even for baseball.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate to tell anybody, but Nebraska and club and their intramurals, they don't play. They take that stuff very seriously out there. I mean, they got stuff hanging up everywhere. I remember when I went on the tour for my daughter who just graduated from Lincoln, like, they take that stuff serious. What brought USC and how did that connection happen?
Yeah. So my freshman year was the COVID year. We all got sent home. But we fortunately got 19 games in, so I got a taste of it. I wasn't starting. I was behind one of our third basemen, and truly he was better than me at the time. Great hitter, great fielder. But they let me pitch a little bit. And the day before we got sent home, I had my first ever college start. I was starting at that point. I'm normally come out of the bullpen. So I was, shaking in my boots. I gave up a grand slam, another home run, went terrible. And, my coach pulled me aside after and he ripped me. I mean, he bad. He basically told me, dude, if you're too scared to pitch, just don't, And then we got sent home for COVID the next day. And I was like,
that's a good thing.
That's the last thing. Yeah.
No. But here's the thing though, is like at that time, it hadn't even happened yet, but I was like, this is going to be the best thing that ever happened to me. And that literally gave me 8 months to get as good as I can. I used as much of that time to get better as I could. And I feel like I came back, a completely different player. So
we talked about the COVID thing before. I mean,
yes.
that was such a unique opportunity given to these players, like especially college players who, I think the college game, they suffer because they're playing all the time. You're playing spring ball, summer ball, then you got like 2 weeks off, and then we're going to go play fall ball, right? And then we'll shut down over Christmas break, but then we're going to ramp up. So there's not always a ton of time to really focus on yourself. Like, what do I need to do to get better? And in that COVID year, you just see some people that really thrived during that, right? Mm-hmm. There's not a ton of people allowed in there. It's the people who just can go in there on their own and get the work done that really came out on the positive side.
Yeah. And then, coming back, the next year, I hadn't talked to any teams, any Division I schools. And in my head, I was like, I'd love to go Power 5, right? But I haven't even heard from a Division II school yet. Couple weeks in, we got through our first scrimmage. My coach took some video of me and sent it out. First phone call I got was from Mississippi State. And that was coming, I think they won the College World Series that year. So in my head, I was like, this is crazy.
Surreal.
Anything's possible now.
Yeah.
And that kind of helped me realize it's like, okay, I can actually play at that level. This is the sort of expectation I should have for myself. I'm not a Division II baseball player. I can play at that level.
What do you feel the hardest thing during COVID was to keep yourself focused on your goal?
Honestly, after that conversation I had with my coach, I didn't need any extra help with that. I was really upset. And I just wanted to prove him wrong. First day I stepped back on campus, I was like, he's going to be sorry he said that. Jared, I love him now. But
Jared, do you remember much about your COVID year and what development you might have went through during that process?
Yeah. So interesting enough, we were down in California, right? I think it was a week before or 2 weeks before the season shut down. Swung through a fastball, broke my hamate bone. And so I had surgery on it. And then I think it was 4 days after surgery, everything shut down. So for me, it was about, rehab and getting healthy again. And didn't happen. Actually, I've had 2 surgeries on my hamate bone, which doesn't really happen for anyone. So as I was during COVID, just rehabbing, doing the best I could. And there was still a piece of the bone in there that was right along the nerve, which just out of my control and very frustrated. For me, COVID was not, mentally a good time for me. I took it out in the weight room. I was frustrated. I didn't know why my hand was hurting. So,
well, and that's good that you're not afraid to say, like, because like Brian said, there's a lot of people that had growth, but you had redemption that you constantly had to go back and find a way to not have that happen again. What did you feel the biggest struggle is? Because I think some people don't realize sometimes when you're able and capable and then you go to I'm limited and I can only do so much.
Yeah, I think, mentally it's like, well, is it, and for me in this injury, it's supposed to be 4 weeks. I'm looking at, 3 months and it's still bugging me a little bit. I'm like, am I ever going to get healthy? I can't really go to a doctor right now because we're in the middle of COVID. So it's such a unique, experience for me. And I'm like, well, at least I have a lot of time to rehab this. And I'd say just mentally it was like, well, my hand's bugging, but at the same time, my legs work and I can put a barbell on my back and I can still get after, I can run, do all that stuff. So, for me, it was like control what you can control. And that was outside of my, I had no control over, a person missing that bone or, the complications of the first surgery. So it goes back to that. It's still frustrating. I had way too much time during COVID to think about it.
You hit it right there. The thinking, like people don't understand, like you could just be sitting there just watching the TV and all of a sudden you feel just a little bit of tingle and you start thinking about it again. You're like, God, man, I'm tired of this. What was the biggest thing and who helped you overcome that?
Yeah. So I actually went into my junior year after COVID, had 3 or 4 cortisone shots in it. Tried to play through it and ended up sliding into a bag, hurt it worse. And at the time, obviously, I didn't know what was going on. I knew that, if I did this with my wrist, it would hurt. So you can imagine a full swing. And so I figured, something's going on. Ended up going to a different doctor. He's like, dude, you got a bone that's just been sitting there for a year in your hand. So pretty much playing with a broken hamate. And, for me, it was same going back to my dad, like talking to him about it. He's like, hey, and I at that moment when I heard that, I was very frustrated. I went home.
This is the bone you were supposed to have removed the first time, right?
Yeah. Yep. Bone I was supposed to have removed. Just a part of it was along the nerve. So, that thing, injuries happen, but stuff like that is completely out of your control. You have no opportunity, you can't do the surgery yourself. So, I went home, I threw some things when I found out. And then once I got done with that, I said, well, what can I do now? So, I ended up getting the surgery and I wasn't having a good year. And I was like, all right, my senior year is going to be my year. And, I think, when I shifted that energy to, okay, what can I control? Well, I can control how I'm going to do my senior year. How am I going to go out there and attack every workout every day? So that's kind of how I shifted my perspective, from frustration to, okay, there's nothing I can do. What can I do now?
Nice. And Matt, we'll go back to you. You went to USC, playing all the way out in sunny California. That's got to be rough. But you're also progressing. What do you think is the biggest thing that USC got you to the next level? And what do you think is something that you still had to find within yourself that they didn't give you?
So I had an opportunity with the St. Louis Cardinals out of junior college. And, that was a really hard decision to make. But I didn't feel like I was ready mentally yet. I've been playing against Region 9 baseball players, JUCO guys. I was like, I got to go play against the best of the best now. And
you're telling me money didn't just right away sway you to say yes?
No. That kind of money, you got to make a lot of money for it to be any sort of life-changing money anyway. I didn't feel like I was ready because I didn't believe that I was good enough to play at that level yet. So I wanted to go out, play against some Pac-12. There's some really good players out in the Pac-12. Get a few of them out, and then, it started to build my confidence a little bit. It's like, all right, stuff plays at this level. I'm ready for the next chapter, So really, in my head, I didn't really change anything physically, but it was a mental change. It's like you got to believe that you're good enough to be there.
Well, and I only asked, you obviously go all the way to California. Was there any love from your own state? Was there any? And it's okay because none of them own anything on me. But what's that feeling? The only reason I asked is because I had a few basketball females that went out, and I let them just tell what they felt about here. And I don't mean it in a bad way. It's just letting the perception be real instead of someone go, well, I think that Omaha doesn't recruit good here, or I don't think. Like, was there any shot that you felt you'd come back in state and do what you wanted to do?
Yeah, when I was looking for schools out of junior college, my dream school was Nebraska, Lincoln. Didn't hear from them, didn't get an email, phone call, text, nothing. Which, I kind of had a chip on my shoulder after that. But after I was at USC, I hit the transfer portal again. They went through some coaching changes, and Nebraska reached out, and, they had me on campus, and, we squashed all the beef there. So, but I talked to UNO and Creighton a little bit. I have a lot of respect for both of those coaching staffs, and I just felt like at that time it wasn't, the best fit for me. But I'm sure it would have, been a really good experience.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, a lot of people feel like they don't get the love, but sometimes you have to look at a roster. It's like, okay, hey,
yeah, you're
like he's a back end
yes.
bullpen guy. Like, what do we have currently? Does he fit in that mix? And I mean, I can't remember what they had, but it might have been a disservice for him to go there. He's not going to get the innings. He's a new guy. Like, you have to compete. So it's tough. I mean, it's really tough when you don't get the love from your home state, but. I think too many people take that personal.
But see, you could also have the conversation though with them, just letting them know, hey, I'm interested in you, but have you looked at our roster? You know what I'm saying? Like, at least let him know that he's got the want.
Yeah.
But I do understand because he's just one pitcher in the portal with the rest of the pitchers. Doesn't mean that he sticks out on top of their list because you don't know where they're getting their numbers from or where they're getting their results from.
Right.
Did you feel like when you went from the USC, did you feel like you had to put yourself out there? Did you feel like there was enough tape online for you to be seen?
When I was transferring from USC?
Yeah.
I think pretty much every school nowadays has access to TrackMan reports and stuff like that. So I didn't have to get any videos sent out. That was kind of a crazy process. It was definitely, it felt good. As a kid, I felt like I was, behind, my whole life pretty much. It was like I was playing catch up. And now, first time I hit the portal, now it's like these are the schools.
That was fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is, what every kid's dreaming of. I just did it 3 years later,
Hey, but you stuck to a process that's hard, and you hopefully have set your word so someone else can see the journey can be had if you do the dedication, if you get involved, if you stay dedicated to yourself. Jared, your process was obviously just bam, bam, bam. What was it like when you finished your senior year? What'd you feel like you left at Creighton, and then what was your MLB experience that you're going through now?
Well, you might want to. So you got to walk through a little bit because he had one stop between Arkansas between that, right?
See, I like that. That's why Brian's here. Keep us on track.
Yeah. So I played my 4 years at Creighton. Enjoyed it a lot. Have a lot of great teammates and countless memories there. I had a really, really good season. My senior year, thought there was probably a pretty good chance of me getting drafted. Ended up not happening. Decided, I wanted to move away from Nebraska. I wanted to see, where I could play, and I knew I had a good year. So I entered the transfer portal. Like Keating said, you're kind of, we're like, wow, this is crazy because you've never had that experience before where, teams are reaching out to you. Teams that you only dream of playing for. And I had, an opportunity to go to Arkansas, and draft didn't work out. And I'm totally okay with it now. It was a dream come true to play down in Arkansas for Van Horn. And, so that was kind of the process of me transferring. And then, I think transferring to Arkansas gave me a really good opportunity to, get drafted at kind of as an older guy. It's kind of challenging for the fifth years to get exposure. And, there's a lot of good fifth years, but a lot of them, you have to play really, really well. And, I proved it at the SEC level. So that was really big for me as a fifth year.
Well, and you brought up a thing called the biggest thing is exposure. Did you guys, and we'll start with you, Jared, did you feel like the coaches or the media for Arkansas, do they have to kind of promote you a little bit when it comes to trying to get that MLB offer, or is it just all based off of everything you do and only you do the talking?
Yeah. So when I went to Arkansas, we had 9. Don't check me on this, but I think we had 9 guys drafted this last year. So the scouts are going to be around because there's all these guys they can look at. And so, you show up and you're this guy, you played in the Big East, whatever. And then, in the fall, you start proving yourself, scouts start following, and you start meeting with them. And, I think just playing on kind of like that caliber of a team, there's just always going to be eyes on you. And I mean, the coaching staff definitely helped me out with, a lot of the challenges and stuff like that. So I'd say it was a mixture.
And Matt, what about for yourself? What do you feel like you went through when you came to that process?
Kind of the same thing, like I said, I had the opportunity out of junior college. So, I was in contact with quite a few teams before I even went out to USC. So they just kind of followed along. And then, you do start performing in the fall, you meet with them and, hope you have a good season. And then hope for a phone call during the summer.
Well, and both of you have been drafted by the Yankees. Congratulations. You've obviously shown that anybody from Nebraska can do anything if they put themselves to it. One thing I have to ask, people have asked me, what is the bus life like when it comes to these minor league teams? Because people think that this journey is, I got drafted. I got everything in the world.
Mm-hmm.
It's a continuous of the process. What would you say the bus life's like, and how's the process so far?
I might let Jared take this one. The bus rides are pretty interesting.
I'd say,
to a sign where you just drank water. So, I mean, your stories could go, but go ahead, Jared.
I would say, we traveled pretty well at Arkansas, and, on the bus, it's good to be around your teammates. I don't know about that long to be around them. You're going to be around them 24/7, and then you're stuck on a bus and there's a bunch of guys on the bus. But you find things to do, and it does help with team camaraderie, spending time with that. But you definitely want to get a pretty comfortable pillow and maybe bring a blanket. So
did it prepare you for the minors in that bus schedule?
Yeah. I've done some pretty at Creighton. We did some 10-hour bus rides. So that definitely prepared me for
Jared's from
minor league.
He's been driving his entire life. The Kearney people are built differently when it comes to driving. I'll tell you that right now.
Hey, I got a 17-hour trip starting tomorrow. So
good luck.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
I think that the minor league bus trips might be a little more fun. There's less rules. You can kind of, you stop at a gas station. They don't really care what you're buying in there. Just be back on the bus by the time it leaves.
Well, I wasn't going to say that.
You're the floor sleeper, aren't you?
No. I don't like sleeping in buses. I kind of like watching what's going on. When it's dark out, then I start having issues. I'm, which side of the window do you want? But no, I think bus floors are just disgusting.
I had a guy in college that'd bring those inflatable rafts, that you float on the water with. This dude would blow it up and just set it right down. It would kind of curl up, and you just pass out right in the middle of the floor.
Like a taco.
Yep.
Then everyone's got to climb over him to use the bathroom and
did not care.
Accidentally kick him, you know.
Well, the best part is you guys have given a lot for any up and coming athlete. Obviously, the journey is just beginning with you guys in the MLB, in the minors. Jared, what's the biggest thing that you've taken so far from your experience in the minors, and what's something that you would like any Nebraska prep to know and understand of the journey that you had to take to get there?
Yeah, so I got just a short taste of professional baseball, getting drafted in early July. I would say the big change is it's in college, you got coaches that are kind of watching you and making sure you're kind of following that straight line. And in the minor leagues, you're all on your own, so you kind of have to have that discipline and that self-control. Nobody's really looking after you. And it's at the end of the day, it is about performance and how you're doing on the field. For somebody, a Nebraska high school kid, I think, look at Keating, look at me, we've had such crazy journeys with, like Keating not, going JUCO after he enrolled at Nebraska, me not having high school baseball, the injuries that I've had. Everyone's got, and everyone in professional baseball has this journey. None of them are just a straight path. And I think you got to realize that as a high school kid, and then, you got to realize everyone's journey is different and create your own journey. So
Matt, for yourself, what do you feel?
Biggest thing I learned. So, I mean, I was there. This was my first full year of baseball. And this was, kind of hard for me to learn this year. Was you got to be where your own 2 feet are. And I know that gets said all the time, and I can't put enough emphasis on it. It's like everywhere that I've been, high school, I wasn't on the team I wanted to be on. I didn't want to be in junior college. I wanted to be at a Power 5. I didn't want to be at the Power 5. I want to be playing pro ball. I don't want to be in low A. I want to be in high A. It's not about where you're at, right? Like you're never going to be where you want to be, right? Because there's always a step ahead.
Yeah.
So you got to find a way to take the results out of it and just be like, how can I be the best version of myself right here, right now? And the rest of it's just going to take care of itself,
Yeah.
And that's what I had to learn this year.
And then for the Nebraska preps, what's something you want to make sure they understand and know?
Get as good as you can right now. And you do that every day, it's going to work out for you.
All right. Last one. Jared, who is your number one baseball player growing up that you look up to? And have you had a surreal moment so far being in the majors where you've seen someone that you wanted to say hi, but you just couldn't?
So growing up, I'd say Mike Trout was one of my favorite, just with how great he is at the plate. I feel like I try to say that I'm similar to him, but we're kidding ourselves if I'm saying that. But so growing up, it was him, and then a surreal moment I would say is in pro ball. So my first simulated scrimmage, so first time getting at bats, professional at bats. I was in left field and Aaron Judge was in right on a rehab assignment. And talking to him about his approach, super, super nice guy, just down to earth person. Talking to him about approach and what he's seeing in the box and stuff like that was just a surreal moment. Really, really cool moment for me.
Matt, how about yourself?
That's awesome. I mean, I would have said Aaron Judge too, but so growing up, Derek Jeter was always my favorite player. And he won a lot, and Aaron Boone was also, on some of those winning teams, and getting to meet him was really cool. First time I met him was actually taking a piss. So
wow. Weird.
Yeah, I know.
Keating's got all
nice
the going to the
watch,
restroom stories up in here. Well, guys, I appreciate your story. Brian, what do athletes like this do for not only organizations like Wired, but high school sports locally and athletes that you see all the time?
I think the biggest thing that these two bring to the state of Nebraska is they show that there is a path, and I think that we in Nebraska think that, if you want to be good at baseball or play baseball at a high level, you got to be from the South, right? They're getting more opportunities than us, but these two show that hard work can get you and help you. There is a path. If you work hard, you can achieve your goals. And I think that's what these two, more than anything, bring to the state of Nebraska and motivate these younger people. I know Gunner hangs around him and talks about Matt all the time. And he's bothering me. Speaking of Aaron Judge, he wants to know if you can get him an Aaron Judge autograph. So we'll see. Yeah. Quite a bit, so.
I'm not a Yankees fan. I'm a Braves fan. My son is a Yankees fan. So I appreciate your guys' time. And I appreciate your story. Once again, this is a Wired Axcess podcast, part of Hurrdat Sports Productions. We have 2 MLB baseball players, both from Nebraska, with us. We had Jared Wegner on our first Zoom. I appreciate it. It went smooth, I felt. And then we had Matt Keating. They both showed the journey is not the same. And just remember, if you can find one tidbit from these two to help your son or daughter, or if you're an athlete and you find that one little tidbit, don't be afraid to reach out and help someone that might need that same information, because it's out there. You're not alone in the situation. You might feel it, but just know others have been through it. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.